morning, good morning. I have a feeling that we're live. It's just a guess at this point, but I think we're live. Hello everyone, how are we? How is everyone doing? I know I just did something that looks really stupid in suddenly laughing for no reason at all, except that the screen just went blank. All by itself. Because of course it did. I'm just going to get the other screen up and running, and then I'm going to tell you my bright idea. All right, here we go. Click, and who has, good morning, Charles. Good morning, Karen. How cool is this? I'm seeing you appear before you have a thing to say. Look at that, look at that. So, here's my bright idea. I'm a little fed up with people being precious. I've decided to call it precious because if you take them too seriously, they just get ridiculous and tedious and silly. Have I mentioned that I'm working on this book? I'm working on this book collection, Pivotary in Motion. And I'm doing it for reasons that are evolving, kind of without my control, which is what books do, in case you were not a writer. And good morning, Phil. What I find is that as I'm thinking of things, something pops up in the news, and I look at it and I think, oh, would you look at that? I can use that. Or stop refreshing and rewriting and rethinking the first book. So I need to back up because I'm prattling, I can tell. My name is Abby Haggard, and you have tripped, stumbled, run happily into the live videos that I'm doing on Facebook twice a week, and have been doing twice a week since November of last year. So this is episode 67. It's like Heinz 57 with sprinkles on top. And the purpose in doing these videos in the beginning was to find out if I could still do this kind of thing, if I could still go on camera and sound like I meant to do this. And because I have plans, I have an intention that is bigger than me sitting in my office and doing a Facebook live video. My goal that I began to nudge in web-based shows and webinars and conversations and a community of people who are creative in some way and forward-thinking and adventurous and keen, facing the front, because the global effects of the COVID pandemic and the ripple effects of that massive what the hell is going on are really showing up for us, the cracks in things that we maybe were just glossing over or didn't even see. And one of the big fallout issues, in addition to people getting very sick and sadly many dying, and job losses and turnarounds in small business and education, was that creative people who relied on certain ways of communicating suddenly didn't have them. And you had, live entertainers who had you couldn't record anything in a studio. That was a petri dish. All of a sudden, it was a real slam up against wall that no one saw coming. And it surprised me in a big way, because creative people um, think outside the box, and I expected more of them to say, well, you may have stopped me there, but I'm on this way. And I didn't see it. And I thought, well, there has to be a way that we overcome this. And I was frustrated because I had a really great project that I was getting ready to launch, and now I'm not. And uh, yes, exactly. Charles was saying that he had COVID, and it's not what people think it's going to be. Whatever you thought it was, it's not going to be that. It surprises everybody, and because long COVID, so it's a very unsettling situation to be surrounded by something that you can't see, and you don't know what its impact is going to be. It's hard on people. And I was having this really, really good conversation with a longtime friend of mine yesterday about this. And I said, we have for such a long time gone to school the same way. We've gone to work the same way. We've gone out to eat the same way. We've used transportation the same way. There have been no radical changes, no massive shifts. I mean, the last biggest shift was the internet. And before that, everything was in closer proximity. The internet transformed everything. Suddenly, we were a business without borders, global village. I can talk to you now. We take it for granted. Now people are doing their TikTokers and their whatnots and their Instagrams and their who knows what all these platforms are, like it's an everyday thing. But the people who are creating content in the old ways that content has been created, books and audio and listening to a great story, watching a movie, watching television, going to the theater, going to a concert, those things haven't changed. And so they are fragile, they're vulnerable, because the minute you can't go, there's no show. So my intention is something I've called Story Me TV. Everything is based on story. I'm always talking about the Vikings inventing everything. Vikings certainly created storytelling, and they didn't have a written language. So what was passed on was what people remembered. You had to be a great storyteller for the sagas to continue. If we began with stories, then stories are what we go back to do a reset, to do a return to default and begin again. So Story Me TV is going to be a network. It's going to be a broadcasting platform where all different kinds of entertainment will be produced. And I already have, I think it's 40 projects that I have under copyright. And then in the process of talking about this to people when I was doing the videos, I suddenly realized that there was so much exhaustion and unhappiness and uncertainty, and so many people who have bravely figured out ways to turn their lives around. I thought, it might not be a bad idea to create a show that is a conversation about the times when we have said to ourselves, you know what, I'm going to turn this around. I don't have to be held hostage to this script. I once got in very serious trouble in a recording studio. I was doing a commercial and there was another actor with me, and they handed us the scripts, and we went into the recording set of the booth, and I looked at the script and I said, dear God in heaven, what smells in here? Oh, it's the script. Unfortunately, the writer of the script was sitting on the other side of making friends wherever she goes. The idea of telling stories that connect us, that make us say, oh my gosh, you too? Well, when I did it, it was purple, but the rest of it's the same. That kind of thing is very encouraging. The reason it's encouraging is because it makes us feel connected. It makes us feel part of something. COVID interrupted that. If you can't go to school, if you don't go to the office, if you can't go and meet your friends every Wednesday the way you always have, who are you? Back in 2008, there was a big downturn in the U.S. economy. Lots of people were downsized without any warning at all. And a very dear friend of mine, a therapist who works with people on coping mechanisms when the world is too much with us, was invited to go to a counseling. She went to the workshop, parked the car, was walking toward the door, put her hand out to grab the handle when the door was opened for her from the inside. And there was a handsome man there in a suit and a big smile, looked great. And he put out his hand and he introduced himself to her. And he said, like for the sake of argument, put out his hand and said, Dr. So-and-so, I presume? John Smith, marketing. And then he froze because he wasn't in marketing anymore. His job had been downsized. He was a senior level salesman for years. Well-liked, popular, successful. And now he had no idea who he was. Because for so many years he had introduced himself by saying John Smith, marketing. And the marketing part isn't true now. Who is he? And she was cutting your hours back and downsizing at work. Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. So part of my project now, because everything has a ripple effect, part of my project, part of the Pivotary in Motion project, which is the name of this whole exercise I'm working on right now, is talking to people about those moments when someplace they are was fine until it wasn't. And now they have decisions to make that they didn't have to make last week, last month. But they're very real now. It's terrifying. It's terrifying unless you are willing to believe in yourself and willing to say, I can do this. My skills are transferable. And this is part of the whole conversation today. And how the timing, Charles, the timing is incredible. People think of themselves as John Smith, marketing, Abby Haggard, Viking. If that job, if that role is changed, what do you care? Written on your invisible cape that you can take with you to another opportunity without losing too much pride, time, energy, confidence. What are these things that we innately bring? People don't think that way. One of my lovely live show guys, the most fearless talent wrangler I have ever seen in action, David Johnson, was telling me for his chapter in these books that he has always wanted to keep learning. and do new things, go in completely new directions, so that he could figure out how they worked, how they operated. He's just constantly learning. And he was saying that the upside of that is that I'm never bored. The upside of that is there's always something new to look forward to. The downside of that is that your resume looks a little odd, because they wonder they wonder if there's multiple personalities going on in there who just can't decide. And I said, well, yes, but that's not what's going on here. And he said, well, I'm afraid it is. And I said, no, it isn't. I said, you're standing too close to it. And we all stand too close to it. When things go wrong for me, I say, you know what's wrong with this picture? I'm in it. I do my level best to get the hell out of it. Wait for it as fast as I can. And so when I saw what David was saying, based on what people were telling him, to his surprise and amazement and embarrassment and confusion, he was facing the wrong way. They all were. I said, you are a troubleshooter. You are the guy you're a Red Adair, the most famous oil well fire putter-outer ever known. Whatever industry you're in, you go and find what appears to be the issue, and you look for the most creative, efficient, cost-effective way to resolve it. You, with that skill, are worth your weight in gold, because you can take it anywhere. And people, when they see you coming, will say, thank God you're here. What do we do? He said, really? And I said, absolutely, really. Absolutely, really. And what is in people's way right now, for instance, Charles just saying that they're cutting back hours. And the reason they're cutting back hours is because everybody's tightening their belts. Everybody. And the thing is, we can transfer our skills as soon as we know what they are. The reason we don't know what they are is that we're so busy using them, we haven't spent any time making a list and writing them down. This is part of the purpose of the Pivotary in Motion book collection. So there's going to be 7 books. The first book, the introduction, is What the Hell Is She Talking About? The 7th book is How the Hell Does It Work? Those aren't the titles, although maybe they should be the subtitles. And the 5 books in the middle, I've divided into categories, and they are all comprised of interviews that I'm having, and I've had, with you guys about the moment you said, well, that's not working. Clearly one of us is going to have to fix it. Apparently it's me. And you said, I'm just going to turn it this way and see what happens. Oh, look at that from that angle. Well, what a good idea. I wonder why I didn't do that sooner. And the reason you didn't do it sooner is because you were busy doing it. The thing is, no one teaches this. One of the things that I do when I'm writing is I will stumble on a phrase. Somebody will say it, or I'll see it in print somewhere, and I'll think, oh, that's interesting, and I go look it up. And I may already know the definition, but I want to know the current colloquial, the conversational definition, the popular definition. And I want to see if I can use it in some way that allows people to go, oh. In fact, that's how Pivotary happened. A pivot is an abrupt turn, usually on a turning point. You know, when you turn on the ball of your foot. You watch basketball players and they're running hell-bent for election down the court, and then all of a sudden they stop, and they stop so fast that their sneakers squeaks go on the wood, and they about face and they head the other way. That's a pivot. In machinery, there's a pivot. It's a point on which you can rotate dramatically, quickly, and easily. So I wanted the adjective. I wanted the description. I wanted to be able to say, we know what a pivot is. What do we call the act of pivoting? So I was looking up words and I suddenly realized, well, a poet writes poetry, and a dentist performs dentistry, and a mason creates stone houses, and that process is called masonry, and somebody who looks after forests is in forestry. And I said, pivot, Pivotary. The act of, the process of, the art of pivoting is Pivotary. The reason I've called it Pivotary in Motion, aside from kind of playing on that old song, Poetry in Motion, which I won't sing for you now, is that we're not static, we're not standing still. We're either on a dead run away from a bear or down a hill trying to find things we can grab onto for traction, or we're just running for the sheer joy of it. How we pivot, the method we use, the style we adopt, is something we're doing in motion because we're not standing still. Life is not static. Life is constantly in motion. So every single day, somebody, Karen, you need to read Karen's comments because crazy like fuck. So what is happening to people that has suddenly occurred to me in one of those moments is this. It's a process. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Suddenly, an elephant. Suddenly, a piano out of the sky, causing everyone the utmost damned astonishment. Okay. Everyone can handle that. It's a little alarming, but everyone can handle it. What we can't handle yet, what we are not trained to handle, what we are not practiced and polished at handling, is elephants and pianos falling out of the sky every day with no end in sight. And we're saying to ourselves, ow, ow, and how, like, where are these all coming from, and when is it going to end? And that is such a huge distraction. We can't focus on the thing we normally do because shit, we can't stay scared indefinitely. We can't stay offended indefinitely. We can't stay nervous and uncertain indefinitely. because we're not built that way. We're built to deal with a crisis and then move on. Okay. The thing, though, is that it has gone on too long. And now we are seeing the fraying of the fabric that we together create. A couple of things happened yesterday. One of my friends I'm going to talk to this afternoon said, I'm fed up. It's like everyone has chosen to phone it in. Nobody's trying anymore. Everybody's just doing lip service. Don't they have any self-respect? And he was annoyed, obviously, clearly annoyed, upset, because he needed a service. And he was ready to pay for it, the way he always does. And he was given the runaround by people who didn't care, who were in full apathy. And it didn't matter who he reached out to, what he tried, what he was willing to volunteer to do. No one in positions who had to ultimately flip a switch, turn a knob, push a button, they weren't into it. So they were blowing it off. They were saying, you have to talk to my supervisor. Okay, how do I get to your supervisor? He's not in. All right. Come here. I'm going to awaken you out of your apathy in 3, 2, 1. Although we can't. And here lies the outcome. People are yelling. People are rude. People are walking in front of you, and when you say, excuse me, they turn around and say, so? Make me. In unprecedented numbers. People are fed up, don't care, don't want to play. They're taking their ball and they're going home. That was the first thing. The second thing, the conversation that I had yesterday with my longtime friend, is that the concept of community is voluntary. We choose to come together for the greater good. We choose to collaborate and compromise and cooperate because many hands make light the work. Unless you just you don't care and you don't want to, and I'm going to sit in my pajamas for as long as I feel like. I do not wish to participate. We're hearing it and we're seeing it in crazy, unprecedented numbers. So you know the thing I said at the beginning of this video? That the platforms that we're used to, the methods and the models that we have had surrounding us for as long as I can remember, my parents can remember, my grandparents can remember, are now broken. We haven't created new ones. It's never occurred to us that we would need to. We've always done what we've always done. People like us do things this way. Script they were given and say, who wrote this? I'm flipping the script. I'm changing my lines. I'm reframing my character arc. I'm going to do it differently, and I'm going to find new friends who are doing the same. I'm going to build a new positive, collaborative, collective, creative community because I can, because I have the internet, because I have you, because I more or less understand the tools. Because you know what? If we have an issue with power, and this goes down, we can write letters. We can get on the phone. If the phone isn't working, we can get in the car. Maybe I can't come and see you in Tibet, but maybe I can find somebody who is going to Tibet and I can give them a letter and they can pass it along. Maybe we have to do a reset all the way back to the old ways that people got together and told their stories. And they all said, "Oh, you too? Wow, I thought it was just me." No. Nobody's alone. Nobody's an island. Everyone is struggling with this sudden, abrupt, surprising shift in the way things work. Nobody knows what to do. People are terrified. It's like all of a sudden my boat doesn't have a rudder and there's a wave coming. Rowing. What do I do? Everybody lean to the left. Everybody lean to the right. How do we fix this? We invent something new. A thing I was reading this morning is I am one of those people who is internally motivated. No one ever needs to give me a pep talk. I am at the table handing out pep talks to the people who want to give one to me. I have always been that way. And I'm not sure why, but it's the way I'm wired. If it's not working, I'm going to find another way. I'm not going to sit here and say, "It's not working," because all that happens then is that I look really unfortunate and it's still not working. So my goal today is to talk about a couple of ways that this works. It's an opportunity to give you a couple of the how the hell does this work process tools that I use that work universally. And if you haven't used them, this is an opportunity to test if I know what I'm talking about. Well, the first one is this. When you feel frustrated, when you feel that your breathing is shallow, when you feel as though your jaw is clenching itself without any instructions from you, when you have to actually unclench your hands and relax your shoulders, these are signs that your fight, flight, freeze, hide cave brain is in charge. When you feel anger, fear, panic, resistance, that is your cave brain saying, "We are in danger." The cave brain has kept us alive because it does that. The cave brain manages all the systems that keep us running, and we are very grateful. The cave brain has no other mechanism than that. So when we are faced with something that we can't automatically fix, and we find ourselves getting upset, this is a sign that the cave brain has jumped in to take charge, to fight what's trying to kill us. That doesn't always work. It doesn't make for a good team spirit, because it's very difficult to get angry people to cooperate. You need someone rallying the angry crowd. The cave brain thinking that you're on your own. Until you find that person, that rallying leader, there are things you can do yourself to bring the temperature down, to calm things down, to give a stand down to your cave brain. And the first one is to take a deep breath and hold it for a couple of seconds, not long, not certainly till you'll turn blue. Take a deep breath, let it out. And what that does is that slows everything down. It slows the heart rate down. It automatically slows things down. The cave brain backs off. If you can do that a couple, 3 times, 3 is good. If you can just give yourself permission to say, okay, I'm still mad. Hang on a second. I have to do this. No, I'm still mad. Okay, do it again. 2 or 3. Go for 3. When you've done that, and I've also mentioned on previous videos that you can tell the cave brain, I'm safe. I'm safe. I've got this. I'm safe. I don't need to be angry. I'm safe. Cave brain says, really? Oh, okay then, and calms down. The other thing physically that you can do, sorry, Charles is just saying he used to have a bad temper. That's an out of control cave brain mechanism. That's a fear thing. Because everything goes back to fear. Anger is fear on steroids, right? Depression is exhausted fear. Apathy is fear that has basically handed in its keys and its badge and is shut down. When you physically say, you take your breath, you say, I need to take 5 steps. Doesn't matter which direction. Back is the point. Get away from the immediacy of it. I need to take 5 steps. Abby says I need to take 5 steps. I think she's crazy, but let's see what happens. You take 5 steps. If you're doing that while you're taking the slow breaths, by the time you've done the 5th step, by the time you've taken the 3 breaths, here's what's happened. You've moved on. The thing is still the thing, but it's not triggering you exactly the same way, because those 5 steps and those 3 breaths allowed you to move on. Moving on changes the perspective. The thing is not right in front of you now. It's over there. And when it's over there, it's smaller. You're bigger. That thing is smaller. You've moved on. Simple. Not complicated. Don't need to go back to school and take a course. These are mechanisms we can put in place to relax the flow of adrenaline. It's very, very easy. Once you know, you need to do it. So the 3 brains, cave brain, actor brain, stage manager brain, the interesting thing about them is this. They don't really get along. The cave brain is emotional, emotion-driven. Fight, flight, freeze, hide, comply. These are all emotional reactions to things. The actor brain is all logic. Everything is an if-then. Everything is at first we do this, then we do that, in progression. Those 2 things are not compatible. Logic and emotion, no. The stage manager brain is the mediator. Stage manager brain knows all and sees all. Stage manager brain says we need 3 cups of logic and we need 2.5 cups of emotion. And we mix them like this. And then we put them in the oven at 350 for 20 minutes and we have a cake. What the stage manager brain allows us to do is recognize the value of our processes and our tools when they are used appropriately. In the midst of an economy recovering from a complete shutdown, where everyone working together is essential, is not the time for the cave brain to be in charge saying, yeah, who's going to make me? What we really need is collaboration. We really need people compromising. We really need people saying, we can do this, we can do it together. We have to lean in together. Who's the one shouting, row, row? Who's the one doing that? We need that person. There's a story on the news of an event that took place in the United States, a school shooting, in which the shooter was in the school for almost 90 minutes. And the police on site in the school, in the hallway, armed and trained to deal with school shooters, did nothing. How is that possible? They had no plan. They had no leader. They had no one saying, logically we do this, emotionally we do this, together we do that, you do this, you do that, go. That person, that role was not filled, and no one among the officers on site in the hall, fully armed, took up that challenge. They waited, and people died. And now there's a great hue and cry. How is this possible? And they're asking anyone they can find whose job it is to orchestrate responses to crisis situations, and no one has any answers. How is that possible? What the hell, everyone is saying. And what they're seeing is the outcome of apathy and fear and confusion. People have lost their drive. They can't remember where they left it. And they're going through the motions. They're phoning it in. Relationships are breaking up. Jobs are being done poorly. People who are taking advantage are running amok. There's no logical reason for prices of certain things to be going up, so therefore someone is taking advantage, and no one has the power to say to themselves, I'm going to fix this. Why don't they have the power? They lost it. And they don't know how to get it back. They've forgotten that we, human beings, are extraordinarily gifted with the ability to pivot. They've either forgotten or they weren't told, because the person who was going to tell them forgot or wasn't told. And in the meantime, people who are observing and saying, well, why can't I do this? Aren't doing it. Why not? They're exhausted. They're insecure. They don't know. They've given up. And what it takes is not, I'll save you. It's not that. It's a small boat. And someone says, that's not working for me. I have a bunch of empty seats. Would anyone like to come with me? And people are doing that. People are getting together and they're thinking of different ways to cook food and serve it. They're thinking of different ways to look after people who are sick. They're thinking of different ways to provide services because the old ways aren't working. And the systems are breaking down because a system is a thing operated by people. We forget the government, the corporation, the politician, the church, they're just names we give to groups of people who do jobs. That's it. Somebody yelled at me the other day and accused me of being affiliated with a political party. I said, what on earth are you talking about? Well, you blah, 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 blah. I said, no. First of all, open your eyes. Don't close your eyes and shake your head at me and walk like an angry bull. What are you talking about? Well, I'm just saying. No, what are you talking to me about? Why are you yelling at me? Do you know why you're yelling at me? Have I done something differently? You know what the answer was? You're so goddamn cheerful. And you're so goddamn right. I made the decision. I chose. I chose cheerful. I'm much cuter when I'm cheerful. My shoes look cuter. I have a better time. That's my fix. That's my superpower. It doesn't mean I belong to a group that has a name on it, a label. It doesn't mean that I go to one building instead of another if I choose to worship. It means that I chose to be cheerful. Well, what do you call yourself? Abby Haggard. Nice to meet you. And I have people turning away from me in disgust, which is wonderful because it saves me the trouble. Mind the door. We have choices. We have amazing choices. I want to show you the book that I'm talking about that is this. So this is the workbook that I created for the lovely woman, Victoria Scarcella, who was beaten, battered, abused, every possible way you can think of. And I've already talked about this story I created a collection of 4 books. And the first book was a story of her remarkable survival and beyond survival success and her path to happiness. And when I realized that her life was so extraordinarily complicated that no one would identify with her by reading the book, I then created 2 other books, and they were interview books. And I interviewed 10 people, each one of whom had survived one of the things that Victoria had overcome. And then I interviewed 10 other people who had served as white knights, which is another way of saying a facilitator, somebody who says, here, I got you, here, give me your hand, I got you. And each of those people gave me an opportunity to talk about the thing they did for the first time. And everything that they were able to tell me was like a weight off their shoulders, and they thanked me for this opportunity to share it with the world. When I was talking with Victoria throughout this process, she'd been just so badly damaged that there were a lot of things that she couldn't do. She said she wanted to talk to people, not necessarily as a speaker. She didn't know if she could handle that. But she wanted people to know that there was a way out. And she wanted a simple, easy one. So what we did for her was we made wristbands. And her name was on one side, and then this slogan, "Make It So," was on the other. And "Make It So" was not meant to be Star Trek. What I said was, it's on the cover, the opposite of not is so. If they tell you you're not smart, you tell you, I am so smart. If they tell you you're not worthy, you tell you, I am so worthy. If they say you're not fabulous, you say, I'm so fabulous. I'm so beautiful. I'm so interesting. I'm walking here. That's a shift in perspective. That is turning fear into confidence. That is saying, this is a new boat. I have no idea how it works. I wonder what happens when I push this. What's the worst that can happen? Whoa, that's interesting. As opposed to, well, I don't know, never done it, I don't know. It is up to us to say, well, that's unfortunate. We don't need to do that twice. Let's see what else we can do. Let's see what else we can do. Because our options are unlimited. So in this workbook, and we just did, it's the shortest book you can do that they allow you to have. It's 24 pages. And what the idea was is that there are 3 topics. And she wanted to talk about 3 things. One of them was I'm going to read this properly. Hang on a second. I'm one of those people who actually doesn't need glasses to read. Okay. Her first topic was, it's called self-esteem because it belongs to us. No one else can give us esteem. No one can take it away. It's ours. We own it. It's not ours to own. We own it. We look in the mirror. We see ourselves doing what we do. And we say, yes, that's mine. I own that. That's my self-esteem. The second topic. What if they just got it wrong? What if this thing you've chosen to believe is a habit? You believe it because you have believed it. You believe it because you have believed it because someone else believed it and you believed in them. What if they just got it wrong? That's my old 4 and 3 is 11. What if they just made a mistake and didn't know? And they told you. And you said, oh, okay. And you've lived by it. And you've never double-checked that they might have gotten it wrong. Why not? It's a habit. It's a survival habit. Your cave brain has said, alpha leader says 4 and 3 are 11. And that's the habit. That's the habit. Cave brain doesn't do that, by the way. It sees the picture. But if all we've done is follow the habit, then what's that thing? You'll get what you always got. Sign of madness is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. If you don't take 5 steps back and say, You know what? It's not 11. It's 7. Well, then you have a choice. You have a choice. You can beat yourself up for a year and a half that you were dumb. Or you can hang on to your self-esteem and say, all right, better late than never. And then find a funny story to wrap it around and tell it to people who will look at you and laugh, and you'll say, I know, right? Changes everything, and yet you've done so little. The steps are small, and they are simple. And the third one is when I first wrote it, it triggered something. When I gave it to her, oh my God, it triggered something. I haven't looked in this book in a really long time. And you just saw me do it. And you can see the trigger. Okay. The third step. Rage is a cage. It's not your weapon. It's your prison. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you isolated. It keeps you broken. Your cave brain may think rage is a survival tool, but ultimately, it's a failure tool. Isn't that interesting? 3 steps. 3 steps that she wanted to talk about. Attitude is everything. That's what we're talking about here. In her book, I said, it's time to revise, rewrite, right, and rebuild. Not smart, so smart. Not worthy, so worthy. Not fabulous, so fabulous. I don't recite those things. I just say channel your inner Viking. That kind of sums it up. The idea that we should form groups who have rage in common creates a mob mentality. And the mob mentality is the lowest common denominator. The dumbest person in the group is the average. We can fix anything. You know how I know that? We've built everything. We've done it by ourselves and then said to people, oh my God, look at this. Do you want to help me with that? And people say, oh yeah. I make somebody happy. You know what they want to do? They want to make me happy. You know what happened yesterday? My amazing, talented, funny, stubborn friend, Lance Moran, I have no idea how long it took him, put together a promotional video for this FanaticCon event we're doing in August. He clipped voices, our voices, from all the different characters and shows and put them all together. It's this fabulous little commercial for the fact that John Stalker and Robert Boxall and I are going to be together for the first time in 36 years at this fan event. We haven't seen each other, all 3 of us together, since the last recording we did on The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin, the cartoon series. back in the midst of time. Is that going to be awesome? Of course it is. Do people have any idea how crazy it's going to be? Well, no. And it's what we all need. It's a tonic. It's a moment. It's important. I want to tell you about this other book that I wrote, the first novel, Vicarious, a novel idea. One of the things that I'm going to start doing soon, I've put it off, but I'm going to start doing soon, it's the thing that I had promised myself when COVID came along, is that I'm going to record, I'm going to voice Vicarious, and I'm going to make it available so that you can enjoy it with me. And I'm not going to do it as an audio, I'm going to do it as a video. So I can say stuff, look up, go back, and I'm going to do it in short chapters so that you can watch for a little bit and then tune in for the next episode. I'm going to do that because it's one of the things I've really looked forward to. Why am I doing it? To prove that I mean it. I read this thing yesterday and it made me smile. It made me smile a long time. It didn't make me laugh out loud, it made me smile. And it was this: people are not famous for things they're going to do. Do you love that? I love that. People can be famous for never getting around to it. That's a different thing. And so I've put it off long enough. And I figured, I have to find the right moment. And then I thought, well, all the moments are the right moment, Abby, pick one. So I will pick one. Not sure when I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it instead of these videos. I'm going to figure out how I can make that happen. Anyway, the reason I wanted to talk to you about Vicarious is that Vicarious was an exercise in wondering what it would be like if everyone in a situation, if everyone you came across was living vicariously. You think of, the easiest story is this. The dad who is obsessed with his kid playing a sport and being an all-star and winning is often living vicariously through the child, because the dad never got the chance to actually live his dream. So he's going to live it through his child. That's vicarious. The woman who insists, the mom who insists on blowing out the budget on a child's wedding. And we're going to have 47 bridesmaids and bridesmen, 15 flower boys and girls. Okay, seriously? What do you know about this woman? Well, you know that she didn't get the wedding she wanted. Right there. That mom is living vicariously. Those are examples, and we can think of them. As soon as you describe it like that, you think, oh yeah, I know somebody, or I've done it. Okay, so Vicarious is a story about a writer who has a bit of a train wreck existence. I wonder who it's supposed to be. And she has this dream. It's a nightmare, and she wakes up, and she has dreamed about a serial killer. And it's horrifying, and she wakes up all out of breath. And then the next thing, after she realizes that she's okay, is she says, oh my God, what a great plot for a novel. And then she tells her best friend, who says, okay, so that's not a good idea. Why not? Why not? Listen, I know the whole story. I dreamed it. I'll never forget it. And her friend says, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is you always get caught up in these projects. You always lose sight of yourself. You fall into it. You fall in love with the leading man. You never not do that. I don't think it's healthy for you to take yourself down a path where you get besotted by a sociopath who kills people. Oh, no, no, I'll be fine. What's the worst that can happen? And lo and behold, the worst happens on page after page after page. So the beauty of getting it out of my head and on show it to you, I can share it with you. And it becomes one of these things is a lot like that example. I'll do this. I did this. I did that. So you can choose to be excited about Pivotary in motion. So you can choose to say, oh, so we're going to get the tools to fix all this? When? When are we getting the tools, Abby? Because life is not going well. And the answer to that is, I am incrementally discussing the tools with you in every one of these videos. The difference between the discussions I'm having and the silly stories that go along with them is that I'm handling them out piecemeal. When you get the book, you'll be able to refer to it all the time. You'll be able to use it when you need it. I mean, you can review these videos. If you just look at the title, if you just look at the heading, you'll know which video it is. You'll know which one that you want to watch if you're trying to remember something that you found helpful. The other thing I want to say before I go today is this. We are not we have not dropped the ball when we can't pick it up. We're not flawed. We're not unworthy. This has nothing to do with qualifying. The thing I say all the time about the ocean is that a wave has to go away to recharge in order to hit the beach again. The pause between the steps is the time we take to rest and recharge, revise, rewrite, and prepare to rebuild. Anything that is not working for you is not everyone is overwhelmed. Everyone is exhausted. Many people have chosen rage as their cage. And since they're there, they're not here. They're not doing their job. They're not interested. They have chosen to opt out. That's not you. That is a thing you overcome. Walking along a path, you say, oh look, there's a rock. Okay, so you walk around it or over it, or you stop, pick it up, move it so it's not a problem for the next guy. You don't say, oh look, there's a rock, and then trip over it. Well, I used to. We have the power. We have the power to pivot. We have the power to use our stage manager brain to coordinate the actor brain and the cave brain to make everything work. We are not here to survive. We are here to thrive. Works. crazy days. And if you are going through stuff, this video is a virtual hug. I can't know how hard it is for you. I can know that it is hard for you. And I wish there was more that I could do. Because what you do for me, showing up, being part of this, telling your friends, enjoying it, commenting, means the world to me. And I'm very grateful to have you. So between now and Thursday, you only have 2 things to do. Well, other than, put pants on, for God's sake. Be good to you. Hug your loved ones. And I'll see you soon.